Hi, I'm Louis Norton and I work at Netwall Dental Lab in La Crosse, Wisconsin. We're going to talk today about a newer material called Totally Natural, and it kind of bridges the gap between acetyl resins and regular acrylic. This isn't an injected material, so you're still using your injectors and your flasks and everything. And the setup is the same as what you would do for any other denture type setup. You put your retention in your teeth, and we flask and process, which we'll go through today. You do your setup just like you would any other denture setup. We have ours done here, and I Vaseline the model with a brush. You only have to do a little retention on the teeth in the way of just a little bit to rough them up and make sure that you get a good bond. You can always put some bonding agent on there. Okay, and our flask is all Vaselined up also, so we're ready to half flask it. And again, like we did in the other materials, in the acetyl resins, we have one side that has the sprue plug in it, and I like to have that facing me at all times, no matter what material I'm working with. You push it down about halfway. And you're flasking it just like you would any other full denture. The only thing you leave out is just the wax and the teeth that are not covered. Clean out the end of your sprue plug so that you have a spot to come through with your spruing, because after all it is injected. Clean off the sides so you get a nice clean crisp fit. We're taking out the undercuts, and we let that set up, and then we'll be ready to sprue. Our lower half is all set up, and we're ready to sprue it now. With a upper and a lower, an upper I would take and just go right across and cover the heels like such, and then build up a nice link in here. With a lower, if it's a fairly heavy lower, I will run 3 sprues. I'll run one over the top of the heels on the distal portion, and one right up the center. And run the sprue in like that. Now again, the same as with the TCS acetyl, you'll want to take and you want to get rid of the undercuts that are involved with the spruing, because I'm using square utility wax, and it has a tendency to make undercuts. And you want to be able to recover it as easily as possible, so you want to wax out any of the undercuts. This is a nice material to be using. It kind of bridges that nice little gap between the acrylics and the acetyl resins. And it's so easy to work with. I'm really impressed with it. And you can also repair it with regular acrylic, which we're going to cover also in this tape. In fact, I can probably show you how to put in a name which would cover the repair aspect of it. Some states actually require, as a state law, to have names put in their denture appliances. And Wisconsin is one of them. One nice thing about injected appliances is on the remount you'll find that your bites are much closer than you can get with press pack acrylic. And this material has actually got a little flex to it, which allows it to absorb a greater shock value on it. Now we've got our spruing in place. We're going to Vaseline again. So we're getting ready to facilitate the upper half of the flasking. I used plaster on the lower for the flasking purposes, and I'll use stone for the upper. That way it holds onto the teeth a little better, and you get a nice, smooth, homogeneous mix, so you can get a nice press on it. And now we're ready to close up the flask with the bolts and boil it out. We've poured the top to our flask. It's set up, and now I'm removing the bolts. I'm going to expose the sprue plug, pull that out, and then we're going to put it in the boiling water for 15 minutes. And we're going to go over to the furnace and put our totally natural tube into the oven. So now we're ready to do our boil out. And pull the flask out just as you would with the other TCS materials. Do a little cleanup. Any edges that might be a little thin, you want to maybe get rid of those in case they let loose or something. Put them in the boil out. I like to scrub them with some soap and water. Some of the waxes, as you can see, there's a little bit of red residue in here from some of that pattern wax that gets used. You want to scrub that off. Scrub up the teeth real well. Rinse them again. Set them up on end for just a minute. Get some air. Blow any excess water out. Now, at this point, one difference between the TCS Totally Natural and the TCS Acetyl Acrylic is TCS Acetyl, you don't have to use any separator. Well, you don't have to use separator with the Totally Natural either, but it will come out with a little bit of a white dusting on the surface of the material, which comes off real easily with blasting it with some shell blast. Or you can even take them, by the time you get done finishing it down or hit it with the pumice, it's gone. Or you can even soak it in a little bit of stone remover. Otherwise, you can put an injection grade separator on. and it will work real well. But I would suggest doing it 2 to 3 layers if you're going to do that system, and make sure you do not get it on the back of the teeth. I personally prefer not to use it. Okay, we've got it boiled out and we're ready to put it in and inject it. Our timer has gone off. We've got our furnace at 270 degrees centigrade. Remember that the Totally Natural has to be cooked at 270 degrees centigrade for 14 minutes. So we've taken our flask, we've loaded her up. We're going to tighten the back up. And press her up tight. You got 6 bars of pressure. Hit the press. Turn off the temperature. Turn off the machine. Let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes, and then you can pull it out and bench cool it. Our flask is cooled down, so now it's a matter of taking apart the remaining bolts. Take your hammer. Use plenty of Vaseline. Use the plaster nips to recover. If you break these out when they're still a little bit warm, they come out much better. If you soak them in the sink, they have a tendency to come out a little harder. Now you can see this is that little dusting that I was telling you about that comes out if you don't use a separator on there. But we're going to take this right to the shell blaster before I start finishing it, and it'll take 9/10 of it off just with the shell blaster alone. By the time you get finished and polished, it's missing, it's gone. Okay, I've taken this one and I've gone ahead and shell blasted it, and it's taken, as I said, most of it away. I've got a little bit of short pack on here, but nothing to be too worried about. And that's just so I can show you where to repair it. I'm going to cut the screws off. And you do your mill in, of course. This particular, for the sake of time, we're not going to do a mill in on this one. We're just going to go ahead and break it out. And then we'll finish it down. And you're going to finish this the same as you would any denture, with the same materials as what you finish your dentures with. I really like the way this material works. I like the little bit of flex that it's got. It's not a lot, but it's that good interim in between the acetals and acrylic. Sometimes you get a case where you need a little bit of full palatal coverage. I use a regular crosscut carbide acrylic flame burr. This is a very light material, weight-wise. I would think that this would be a very comfortable material to have in your mouth. As you can see, it peels a little bit. It's almost like a vinyl. But it's not nearly as tenacious as the old vinyls. So the burrs cut it fairly clean. I've got my repair pots on, and I'm going to put a name in this denture before I go to polish it. And it's really no different than if you were putting a name in an acrylic denture. I take and I put a slot in. And of course it's roughed up already. I've already typed up a name on the Shrinky Dink name system. Some people use an oven to shrink them up. I just use the flame until she shrinks down, and I put it on the metal bar here, press it flat, and of course it cools off in a matter of seconds, and then you're ready to trim it up. There really is no difference in finishing acrylic and finishing the TCS Totally Natural. And you'll see that it polishes very, very nicely. Okay, our name is ground down. And all we're going to need to put our name in is a little bit of clear acrylic. And I use a paintbrush. I like to wet the area with the monomer first, then just take a little bit and put it in so you don't get any air bubbles. Put the name in, put another layer on top of it. And put it in the pressure pot for about 10 minutes at 120 degrees. Alright, we've finished down our denture, and now we're ready to polish it. And the polishing procedure is the same as you would use for any acrylic denture. We do the pumice. What I like about this material also is that it has a clearness to it, almost a translucency. So the natural pigment coloration of the tissue underneath, whether it be Hispanic or whatever, it will show through, and it's a natural pigment. We're going to go to the high shine now, and a muslin buff. I like to polish on high speed. And there we have a denture of totally natural injected acrylic, and it looks very nice, and we did a repair with our name in it.